Well, good morning and welcome to Facebook Live from Llanwennedd Baptist Church. My name is Richard Miles. Now, usually we'll be welcoming you to Facebook Live on a Sunday evening. In fact, we're subtitling Facebook Live as Sunday at 6. So it would usually take place at around 6 p.m. on a Sunday. But we didn't broadcast Facebook Live last night. We're doing it this morning instead. And there is a very good reason for that. And if you saw our Facebook page yesterday, you'll appreciate that reason. Because here where we are, we had a power cut last night. The electricity went completely, which meant that we had no broadband, Wi-Fi, none of that, as well as all the other things that goes with not having electricity on. So we decided that we would postpone doing Facebook Live until this morning, when power has now been restored. It's quite interesting really, because when you have a power cut such as we had yesterday, it just reminds you as to how much we need electricity for all sorts of things. As I say, broadband, yes, we talked about that. And of course, if you're going to use broadband Wi-Fi, you need to have electricity in order to run that. But even other things that you might not think of. Boiling the kettle for a cup of tea. Oh, mostly we use an electric kettle these days. I mean, I suppose you can get gas kettles that go on stoves, can't you? But we use an electric kettle. So Anne-Marie said, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll boil some water on the stove because we have a gas hob. The other thing is, to start the gas hob, you've got those little things which produces a spark, and that is connected to the electricity. Now, fortunately, we've got matches, so we're able to light the hob. But again, that's another little thing, isn't it? Not to mention the fact that, you know, when it gets dark, you can't put lights on if there's no electricity. You can't watch television, anything like that. So electricity is very much a part of our lives today, isn't it? The power that we get from electricity seems to be something that is for, well, pretty much everything. And of course, these days as well, now we have electric cars too, don't we? So even if we went for a drive in our new car, you would need to plug it in and charge it up. That's something, of course, you've got to remember with electrical things. A lot of things these days do require charging before you use them, like phones and iPads and those sorts of things. But power, electricity, how vital that is, how important that is. And that just got me thinking about the fact that for our lives as Christians, we need to make sure that we have power to do what we are doing. Because otherwise, our Christian lives would simply be like a television that doesn't have any electricity. It just won't work at all. And so we need to have power for our lives. We need the power of Jesus for our lives. And the good news is this, that God tells us in his word. Paul writes to the Ephesian Christians about the fact that this power is available to us as Christians, the power that God gives us. I'm going to read a few verses from Ephesians chapter 1. Starting at verse 18, Paul writes, I pray the eyes of your heart may be enlightened, so that you may know the hope to which he has called you, the riches of his glorious inheritance in his holy people, and his incomparably great power for us who believe. That power is the same as the mighty strength he exerted when he raised Christ from the dead. So, as Paul's saying, we have power available to us. What he calls there incomparably great power for us who believe. That's amazing power that's available to us. And quite how amazing it is, well, we have to look at the rest of that verse. That power is the same as the mighty strength he exerted when he raised Christ from the dead. Now, as Christians, we believe that Jesus was raised from the dead. And to raise somebody from the dead takes mighty power. It's not something you can just do, is it? You can't just magically raise somebody from the dead. To raise Jesus from the dead required mighty power, power that came from God. And what Paul is saying here is that same power that raised Jesus is available to us in our lives from day to day. And we do certainly need that, don't we? We need that power. And so, yes, we're talking massive power here, aren't we? Great power. Power for anything that is needed in our lives. Because we know very well that if we were to try and do anything on our own, in our own strength, we would fail miserably. But as I say, we're just like the television that wasn't connected to the power, plugged in but no power going in. To try and live our lives without the power of God will be just like that. But we have that amazing power available to us today, that power that raised Jesus from the dead. And so let's remember that in our lives, because as you're watching this today, you may well have things that are going on in your life, things that are difficult, things that are tough, things that you're finding it difficult to contain or difficult to cope with. That happens to many of us, doesn't it? Life is like that sometimes. And we just wonder what we're going to do, how we're going to get through. Well, we can know the incredible power of God through the Lord Jesus Christ. That same power that God exerted when he raised Jesus from the dead. And that power is available to you today. If you will call on God for it, you need to ask him, say to him, Lord, I know very well that I don't have any strength of my own. I don't have any power of my own. Please give me that power that comes from Jesus. And of course, for our lives from day to day as well, as we seek to live for God, even if our lives don't have those things in them, because sometimes things can go very well. Sometimes things can be good. And you know something? If that is the case, we can be very, very tempted, can't we, to try and live as though we don't need God's power. We can say, oh, things are going well. I don't need God's mighty power in my life. Well, no, we certainly do. We need to realise that even when things are going well, it is because God is exerting his mighty power in our lives from day to day. And as we seek to live in a way that pleases God, to do the things that he wants, to say the things that he wants us to say, we need that power for that as well, because we live in a world where sadly many people don't acknowledge God at all, and in fact can be quite sceptical about God. And so we need that mighty power in our lives from day to day to enable us to do that, so that we know the right words to say. We can say to God, Lord, in the situation I'm in, the people I'm contacting, the people I'm talking to, I wouldn't know the right words to say, but we can know his mighty power. And so I just want to leave that with you today as a thought for, well, now, as I say, Monday morning. Thankfully, our power is back on again. We have Wi-Fi. I'm able to talk to you like this today, but I trust that this will be something that you can take through the week with you and be encouraged. God's power God's mighty power is available to you. Well, as always, it's good to have you watching us today. Thank you so much for being here with us. If you wish to leave a comment below, please feel free to do that. And if you want to find us on social media, on YouTube, then please look for our channel, Flower Miners Baptist Church, and we also have a website as well, which you can search for as well, to find out more about who we are and what we do as we seek to serve God where we are here in this little village of Gavailen. So until next time, goodbye and God bless.